This video provides an overview of the details and process for creating Optocom GPS approach maps. Approach maps define the area that the vehicle needs to be in to qualify for EVP and TSP. Vehicles must be in a zone in order to place an EVP or TSP call, so it is very important to make the zones long enough so that they can initiate a call when needed. It is not possible to make the zones too long, but it is possible to make them too short. It is not recommended that the length of the zone be used to determine the triggering point for TSP or EVP calls. Once in the zone, the ETA and distance thresholds programmed within the on-site configuration profile section determine when the call is actually made. The range setting video goes into more detail for setting triggering thresholds. In order to determine where to draw Optocom GPS approach zones, you will want to download and import GIS maps for the area that you're operating. The GIS map data video goes into more detail in preparing map data using the GIS assistant within OnSite. Optocom GPS supports up to 4 possible channels, typically 1 for each direction. There are 10 possible approach zones, each of which will need to be assigned to one of the 4 channels. Each of the approaches may have up to 29 segments to account for curves, turns, etc. Within OnSite, click on the Approach Map Editor button. On the screen is a map of your area and an icon with a traffic signal. On the left part of your screen, there is a window that includes buttons for Add Approach and Add Segment. Select Add Approach and a purple rectangle with the numbers 1 and 2 appear. Drag the points of the rectangle over the first approach that you would like to map. Always draw your approaches starting away from the intersection, going towards the intersection, with the number 1 as the starting point of the approach. If you draw them going away from the intersection, you will preempt while driving away from the intersection and not preempt when driving toward the intersection. If you accidentally do this, the software will display a warning message. For accommodating for curves and turns, click on Add Segment. Notice that as you add segments, the numbers get higher. Drag the points of the segment rectangle over the curved road. The highest segment number should be at the stop bar. As you draw approaches, notice a status box that appears as you mouse over the zone that indicates approach name, zone length, segment count, and channel assignment. Approach zones should be drawn at least 2,500 feet or 760 meters long. Of course, if the roads do not go back that far, it is okay to make them shorter. Approaches frequently include nearby intersections when within 2,500 feet. Be sure to include these adjacent intersections in your approach map so that the call forwarding feature will work. If there are nearby parallel roads, such as frontage roads, off-ramps, etc., adjust the width accordingly, not to include the adjacent roads. The minimum width is about 100 feet and the maximum width is about 925 feet. In a downtown area, you will want to make approach zones slightly wider to help mitigate GPS multipath. After creating the zones, zoom in as needed to adjust them. Approach mapping also determines the phase selector channel assignment for eventually interfacing to the traffic controller. Once the approach zone drawing is complete, be sure to assign a channel to each approach, A, B, C, or D. You can also uniquely name each approach, such as northbound or southbound. Some traffic people like to use the traffic controller phase name. When you are satisfied that you have accurately drawn the approach maps and segments and assigned the proper channel, be sure to write all intersection data to device. Exit out of the approach map editor. This will then write all the new configuration data to the 764 phase selector. In completing approach mapping, it is highly recommended that an Optocom GPS-equipped vehicle be driven through all approaches over the whole length of the zone while viewing the current activity screen within OnSite. If any approach needs to be adjusted, go back to the approach map editor. In cases where the map data is incomplete or out of date, it is possible to record breadcrumbs in order to mark the location of the roads. For example, if a new road was constructed recently and does not appear in the map database, this technique will be needed to draw the approach zone over the missing road segment. The breadcrumbs are called geography points in OnSite. Once the geography points are collected, they can be downloaded to the phase selector and then used as a reference on where to draw the zones. Breadcrumbing with geography points is an infrequently used feature and should be conducted by two people, someone driving and someone using OnSite. If you need assistance in creating and optimizing Optocom GPS approach maps, please do not hesitate to contact GTT Technical Support.